Okay, students, let's talk a little bit about the Louisiana Purchase. It's a huge and important thing in U.S. history, and so I think it's important that we take some time with it. Get myself squared away a little bit here. Got a new computer for Christmas, so it's a little bit different. Um, so before the Louisiana Purchase, let's remember that everything west of the Mississippi belonged to Spain. We talked about that over and over again. Louisiana Territory was the land between the Rocky Mountains and west of the Mississippi River. And if you look at the map, it's that orange area. It looks sort of like an upside down triangle a little bit. Okay, during the early 1800s, after things sort of settled down from, the Revolution and things like that, people started moving west in Conestoga wagons. You need to know that term, Conestoga. It's a picture of one down there at the bottom. Those are the classic wagons that we associate with wagon trains. We call them prairie schooners also because from a long distance, especially with the tall prairie grass, they looked almost like ships because they were white on the top. Naturally, settlers established farms on the Mississippi and the Ohio River because they used the rivers for transportation, and they were used for water, for the source of water for their crops, but also a big source of transportation because, like I've said a million times, they really didn't have a good road system back then. I just put this little frame in here because I think it's important you understand that we still do use the river systems like roads. We transport a huge amount of cargo by water in this country. And these aren't the very latest figures, but they are like maybe a year old. About 624 million tons of cargo are moved by barge. That's 14% of all intercity freight. That's a big chunk. That's almost a fifth of it. And it's about $70 billion of cargo annually. So we still do use the river system quite a bit, especially in the east, where we have the Ohio and Mississippi River. Okay, but during this time, there's a French threat looming. This is one of those cases where history doesn't happen in a vacuum. Things that are happening in North America and to the brand new country of the United States are influenced by what is going on in Europe. So in 1802, the Spanish once again stopped allowing the Americans from using the port of New Orleans because, well, we're still smuggling. I mean, let's face it, we're not going to stop doing that. And Jefferson had learned that Spain had secretly transferred the Louisiana Territory, that giant, huge chunk of land, over to France. Now, this had not been a big public thing. There was not a big meeting of the minds, and people sat down and signed huge public treaties. But Spain had secretly signed that over to France because of this guy, Napoleon Bonaparte. He was really steamrolling most all of Europe. And if you see the map down below, the dark blue part was France, and everything else, the light blue part, was where France was beginning to exert its power and influence and beginning to invade and take control of other parts of Europe. And I will take more pains with this probably in class than I will with this PowerPoint. Napoleon had taken over a lot of Europe, and the war is expensive. And so he told the King of Spain that he would not take over Spain. He could have. He could have taken over Spain. But he said, I'll let you stay there. I'll let you stay on the throne there if you will just turn over the Louisiana Territory to me, that territory in North America. And there's a couple reasons for this. I don't think that Napoleon had great desires for owning the land specifically, although it was sort of a getting back at Spain for going all the way back to the French and Indian War. But so he's kind of going back to that. But there's an ulterior motive here. This King of Spain agreed, but he doesn't want the thing broadcast all over the place because, let's face it, it's going to make him look really bad to his people. That's like giving up a good maybe fourth of the Spanish Empire in the New World without any fight at all. But the news alarms Jefferson because he knows that Napoleon's a megalomaniac. He knows Napoleon, that means, that word, megalomaniac, means you want to take over the whole world. Okay, and so Jefferson becomes worried with this, and he authorizes a couple people to go talk to Napoleon about this, and he wants to know if he can buy the port of New Orleans in western Florida from Bonaparte, because he's like, well, we need to have this port nailed down because we need this for transportation and exportation of our goods, period. We can't be fooling around with this anymore. We don't need this problem anymore. And we certainly don't trust you or know what kind of person you are at all, Napoleon. So he sends people to talk to Napoleon about this. Now, Napoleon, because he is a megalomaniac and he's really probably quite insane, he wants an empire in Europe, but also sees the advantage of having an empire in the West. And specifically the Caribbean, Santo Domingo would be a good naval base for him. But there, he meets up with a slave rebellion, and it gives him a bit of a problem. And plus, I have to tell you and remind you that war is very expensive, and he's becoming overextended. Specifically, he is going to invade Russia, which is going to be the biggest mistake of his life. It's going to cost him everything, and war is expensive. So Napoleon sends troops to regain control of Santo Domingo, but it's not successful, and the French were driven out of the brand new country of Haiti, which is how we get the country of Haiti. But Napoleon is beginning to see that maybe he best not be worrying so much about the new world, and so events are going to unfold here that give us the Louisiana Purchase. So our friend Napoleon has a problem here. I call him our dictator thug friend because that's what he was, a dictator thug. It's sad because really the French people had just fought this revolution to remove themselves of a king, of a series of kings. Louis XVI was the last King Louis to sit on the throne of France, and there were 15 of them before him. And this is what they got instead. They got this dictator thug, Napoleon. But now he's really becoming in need of some cold hard cash to finance his war because he's got himself overextended. Long supply lines are tough. And he's been fighting this war for a while now. And so he thinks he's going to decide to sell the Louisiana Territory. And so when this is offered to Jefferson's envoys, Monroe and Livingston, they're like, well, we don't know. We don't know if we should buy this or not because we're really not authorized to buy it. We were sent here to buy New Orleans in western Florida. But they figure, well, we better go ahead and negotiate this and at least take it back to our president because this is a pretty big deal. We probably can't pass it up. And so that's what they did. They went ahead and negotiated a price, and they agreed to a price of $15 million for all of the Louisiana Territory. And so Jefferson is concerned when he hears about this that it's not legal because, and really this is very important for you to remember, Jefferson's very concerned that the president doesn't have this kind of authority. He doesn't want to overstep his authority as president and do too much because this is very unlike what we've seen in the last 20 years with presidents who seem to think that they can do whatever they choose. The first few presidents, many of them, were concerned with trying not to overstep their authority. And so finally, the Congress hears about this, and they're like, Mr. Jefferson, really, Mr. President, we really think this is a great idea. And under the treaty-making powers of the president, you could probably go ahead and sign this deal and give us all of this land. Wouldn't that be a great idea? And so the Senate does approve the purchase in October of 1803, which doubles the size of the United States. Now, this is something you have to remember forever. Jefferson makes the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. It doubles the size of the United States. You can see that on the map. It's one of the things that will be tested now. It'll be tested forever. It'll be tested on the STAAR test probably, and certainly on the semester exam. So please, 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 this is one of the dates and times that you've got to remember forever. Now, this is kind of long, so I'm going to stop this one here, and I'll pick this up after this with Lewis and Clark.